today I want to talk to you about something totally different, and it is my love for board games. I love board games and I love vintage everything. So I love vintage board games. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm always on the hunt for another old board game. So several years ago, I gave my son an old board game. I had gone on eBay and looked for a particular game that we had played. What happened was, when we go out of town, I don't like staying in motels if I can help it. And so when we go on vacation, a lot of times we'll rent a house so that everybody has room, and you know, I can take Millie with me, my dog, my Maltese. So it's just nice to stay at a pet-friendly house somewhere where we can just spread out and enjoy ourselves. Well, if you stay at some of these rental places like that, they'll have, you know, card games and board games and stuff to play as family entertainment. So one of the things that my son has always loved, well, both of them, but one in particular, the first thing he does is go to the shelf and see what kind of games they have. And if there's something new, he wants to learn how to play it. So we have discovered all kinds of games that way. And it's just a lot of fun because we love board games. So anyway, there was a certain game that we played, and it was an old one. So I went on eBay to see if I could find a copy of it, and thought that'll be a nice surprise, because yes, I buy my kids used stuff for Christmas. Now, not everything, you know, I don't buy them used shoes or something, but a lot of times a used book or a used some kind of something that they're looking for, I will buy, you know, a vintage copy of those because they appreciate those things. Anyway, I was trying to find this game and I could not find it. I did find it, but it was super expensive. I wasn't paying that price. But while I was doing that, these other things would populate, these other games, and one came up, and it was called Finance, and it is like the precursor to Monopoly. And I don't remember when it came out, but anyway, I bought it. Well, when it came in online, it looked like it was in decent shape, but when it came in, it didn't look, the box was torn all to pieces, and I was like, I'm not giving him this. It just looked too raggedy. And then I talked myself into it. I thought, well, you know what? We can tape it up, and if I'll let him know this was what I was trying to do. It's the thought that counts, right? So I managed to put it back together best I could. I wrapped it, I put it under the tree. They loved it. My husband, both my boys loved this game. In fact, they loved it so much that my son, who was in college at the time, he was still in college that year, he immediately found another copy of it on eBay and bought it so that his friends could play it when he got back to college. So they love this game. So now we have two of them here in the house right now, because again, my son is living with us right now, my oldest son. So this is the game. It's called Finance. And if you look at it, you see the box is in horrible shape. And the pieces are nothing to write home about. If you look at this game, I mean, it really, this is the money. This is what the money looks like, you know. And the pieces look like this little wooden faded, I don't know if you can see that. That's how all the pieces look, like this. And the houses are just these little wood chips. So, I mean, there's nothing colorful about it. You know, the money looks like just pieces of paper you've torn up. So I was like, and look at how old this, the instructions are. I mean, this is just, I was like, I don't think they're going to enjoy this, but they loved it. Now, this is what the board looks like. You can see that. That's how the board looks. And so it's set up the same way as Monopoly. But here's the thing, what makes this one so interesting is there is a place, I'm trying to see where it is. I think it's this rowboat to Soquel Wharf. And there's a place where on this one, you can go, it depends on what you roll, you can go back and forth. So sometimes you're going backwards, sometimes you're going forward. Well, there is a certain place on this board that you get stuck. And you'll go and you have to come back, and you go and you just get stuck in that one little spot. The rules are a little bit different than Monopoly, which makes it even more interesting. And they love it. We've never been a huge Monopoly family. I mean, we've played Monopoly, of course, and we've had different ones. You know, they have the, one of my boys had the one that was like a credit card you'd put in. We had that. But we never have been big Monopoly people. And for me, I think Monopoly just takes too long, so I never have cared for it. But for some reason, they love this game. And if you like Monopoly, you might like it because I think it's the precursor to Monopoly. Anyway, who would have thought? Because when I received it in the mail, I thought, this looks horrible. They're going to laugh at me. And it's one of their favorite games. They want to play it all the time. So anyway, so after I bought that one, I started looking for others and picked up some others here and there. Well, my husband was a big Flash Gordon fan, which is super cheesy. If you've ever seen Flash Gordon, it is super cheesy. But he loved it because it was real popular at the time. So I found him a Flash Gordon one year board game. And again, you would be surprised how much they love these games. I was like, okay, this is silly. But they like this one too. This one has a board that looks like this. And everybody has a different rotation around, like an orbit. And so you get on that one and you have to stay until you roll a different one. And you have these little like token things to put on each one of the little spaces. So that's kind of the object of the game. It's cheesy. Only a Flash Gordon fan, I would think, would enjoy it. But my boys aren't Flash Gordon fans and they enjoy it. And my husband does love playing this cheesy little game. So anyway, and these games are not strategic. They're just, you sit down, you just have fun, you roll, it's the luck of the roll, that kind of thing. So anyway, now this one is one I bought. I think this might be from the 80s. I'm not sure. And I bought it just because I thought that looks interesting. I'm going to give it to one of the boys for Christmas. So I wrapped this up. I think last year I gave one of the boys this one. And it's called Big Deal. And it's by, who did this one? Lakeside. I think it's Lakeside. And I used to buy Lakeside stuff for my classroom, games for my classroom. So this one I loved because, and we actually played this last night because I love this game. When they ask me, sometimes I will pick this one. But I like this one because it's so colorful. And it, again, it's super easy. A 5-year-old can play this game. It's not anything difficult. But look how colorful that is. And I just love all the colors. And what you do is as you go around, you land on these little inventions. And you can buy them just like you buy property on Monopoly, but it's not as complicated as Monopoly. And then you get the card, and the card is your opportunity. And then after you get so many cards, you'll go to the middle for your chance of a lifetime, and you can sell it back, and you have prices on the back of how much you get. I'm not going to explain all these games to you, but anyway, the cards are so funny because like that one is arc welding. And then you have, let's see what some of these others. Kangaroo Airlines. They're just silly. One of them is, this one's funny. Trained Worms. That's your opportunity. So you buy this company, Trained Worms. They said it couldn't be done, but we've done it. They're great pets, good with kids, and they guard the house and live on dirt. There's one that's painted on shoes, and it's basically just paint on your feet. They're very silly, but they're so colorful, and it's just this fun little game, and I like playing it. And because it's not anything difficult. Now, we play some games that are all, strategic, and everybody is cutthroat playing, but these aren't those kind of games. These little vintage games that I pick up for the boys are just mindless, super fun. You roll the die, you go around, that kind of thing. Kind of like Sorry or something. And then I found my son loves old shows, and he for a while was watching Happy Days all the time. And I remember playing this as a kid. And this is the Happy Days game. If you've ever watched Happy Days. This one is cute because there's this coolness factor to it. And this is a bright, colorful board for it too. but there's these places where they call you a nerd, or they'll say that you're cool. There's a party at the Fonz's house, and then you have this, it looks like a jukebox, and this, you put your pegs in. I don't know if you can see that. You put your pegs in, and the coolest wins, because you know Fonz is cool. So it's all about your cool factor on this game. It's super cheesy. It's not one of their favorite games, but we do play it from time to time because it's easy, just a fun one, and we're all adults, so we make fun of each other along the way. So that's another one. Another one that we have, now this one is my son's. When I was a kid, my favorite game to play was Clue. I loved that game. You know, the game where you try to figure out who was the murderer, what weapon did they use, and in what room did they commit the murder. And you go around the rooms. I guess you remember that. Well, this is an old version of that, and I love playing on this board. The board I had looked like I don't know when it came out. It had to be the 70s or 80s because that's when I was a kid. But this one, I just love. I mean, look at that board. If that's not gorgeous. And the board itself makes me so happy. I hope you can see this. But look at those drawings on that board. Let's see. Here is the library. Can you see the library? Can you see that? So the board is fantastic. And then the cards, they even look fantastic. Let me show you Professor Plum. I mean, look how cute he is. Can you see him? I just think these are, look at Miss Peacock. Oh, I love them. The way these are drawn, just, let's see if I can find this is the library. It's super simple, the library card. I mean, it looks totally different than the one I had as a kid. So I just love playing with this one. And then I don't know if this one came with it. I think he combined two. But anyway, this one actually has the people, and that is Colonel Mustard. Let's see if I can find Miss Peacock. Here, this is Miss Scarlet, or whatever her name is. Can you see her? So anyway, I just love playing on his board. He found this after I started buying these. He would go in there from time to time and look. He found one. He's got one, this Alfred Hitchcock game. He's got a couple of old Batman games that we play. So we just go crazy over these vintage board games. And then finally, the last one I'm going to share, because we have some others, but these are the ones that are some favorites. This one was a hit because I played this game. My cousin had this game when I was a child, and I wanted to play it. Every time I went to her house, I wanted to play this game. And it's called The Bride Game. And my husband bought it for me. He found it again online somewhere, and he bought it and gave it to me for Christmas a couple of years ago. And of course, I make my boys play this. Look at that pretty bride. But I love this game. I make them play it. And I remember when I was a child loving it, because what you do is you go around and you take turns choosing the different pieces. So you have to find something borrowed, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. And then after you have the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, you have to pick out your bride and you have to pick out your groom. Well, the thing is, you have a formal bride and informal, like she is the formal bride. And then you have the semi-formal bride. And then the informal bride. And let's see, the formal daytime bride. So you have to find your bride. So once you get a bride, then you have to find the groom that goes with her. And then you have, like if you were at the informal wedding, these would be the attendants. That's the informal attendants. So you pick a groom, a bride, and attendants, but they all have to be either formal or all have to be informal. I guess you understand what I'm saying. So when you pick the card, if it's not the one you need, then you don't get a card and you have to wait. So after everybody has picked a bride, a groom, and their attendants for that set, they have the bouquet of flowers, they have their wedding cake, and the something old, something new, all that. I'm trying to find the wedding cakes. The rings, you have rings. Well, when I was a kid, my thing was I wanted like this cake. You know, there's all these cakes, but I wanted to pick this cake, you know, so, and it's the luck of the draw. It's your turn. Whatever's next is what you get. So you have to collect your cake, you have to collect your ring, your bride, your groom, the attendants, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. And after you do that, then you go to the board and you walk down the aisle. Look at that. So you start here and you go all the way up, and whoever gets to the altar first is the winner. And I loved this game. I just loved it. So, of course, now when we get together on game nights, because we play games all the time, every now and again I will pick this up and I'll say, okay, we're playing the bride game. This is my choice tonight. And do you know that my sweet boys, they play it with me. Now, of course, there's a lot of making fun, because as they're choosing their ring or their cake or whatever, of course they're fighting over it. And, you know, this is my favorite. They make fun all the way through. But I remember as a kid, I was serious about this game. I had certain rings, a certain something old and something new that I wanted on this game. And so I just loved it. And I think if you have a little girl, she may love this game too. So if you can find a copy of it, it was so much fun. And I do make my boys play it every now and then. So those are just some vintage board games in my collection that we love playing. We really enjoy these cheesy little vintage board games. Now we have a lot of other board games too, and I'll be sharing some of those with you on a later video that are newer games that we really enjoy. And we play those all the time as well because they're more strategic, and my boys can be pretty competitive when they're playing games. And so we play those too. So I'll share those on another video as well. But these are my vintage board games. Do you play any vintage board games? And let me know in the comments what your favorite board game was when you were a kid. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.